Hello and welcome to English Stories. If you want to learn English through real stories, you're in the right place. Today, I want to share the life story of a woman who made history not through violence, but through peace, courage, and quiet strength. Her name is Aung San Suu Kyi, and she is known around the world as the Lady of Peace. In this video, you will improve your listening, learn new vocabulary, and practice real English sentences, all while hearing an inspiring true story. Her journey is full of lessons about patience, sacrifice, leadership, and standing up for what is right. And I will tell you in simple English, so you can easily understand every part and enjoy the story as you learn. So get ready to learn both English and life lessons. This is the story of Aung San Suu Kyi, the woman who changed history with peace. Aung San Suu Kyi was born in 1945 in a country called Burma, which is now known as Myanmar. She was the daughter of Aung San, a great national hero who helped free the country from British rule. People respected him deeply, and they believed he would become the first leader of a free Burma. But sadly, when Suu Kyi was just 2 years old, her father was assassinated. She grew up without him, but his dream for a peaceful and free country stayed in her heart. Her mother, Kin Kyi, raised her with love, wisdom, and strength. She taught Suu Kyi to care for others and to always tell the truth. As a child, Suu Kyi loved to read books, especially about history and strong leaders. She was quiet but thoughtful, and she always asked deep questions about the world around her. Even in her early years, she wanted to make a difference. When Suu Kyi was a teenager, her mother became an ambassador and was sent to work in India. Suu Kyi moved there with her, and this opened a whole new world for her. In India, she met students and thinkers from many different countries and cultures. She started to understand more about peace, democracy, and human rights. These experiences planted the seeds of the leader she would one day become. Later, Suu Kyi went to Oxford University in England, one of the best universities in the world. There, she studied politics, philosophy, and economics, the subjects that shaped her view of the world. During her time in Oxford, she met Michael Harris, a kind and intelligent British professor. They got married and had 2 sons, and for a while, Suu Kyi lived a quiet, happy life in the UK. She loved being a wife and a mother, but she never forgot where she came from. Then, in 1988, everything changed. Suu Kyi returned to Myanmar to take care of her sick mother, but when she arrived, she was shocked by what she saw. Her country was living under military rule. People were afraid to speak. There were no free elections, and basic rights were taken away. Suu Kyi could not stay silent. She felt a powerful calling inside her to speak for those who had no voice. When Aung San Suu Kyi returned to Myanmar in 1988, she saw that her country was in deep crisis. People were tired, afraid, and angry. The military had been in power for many years, and the people had no freedom. Students were leading peaceful protests in the streets, asking for democracy and basic human rights. But instead of listening, the military answered with violence. Many innocent people were hurt or killed. Suu Kyi felt a strong calling. Even though she had lived a quiet life abroad, she could not ignore what was happening in her homeland. She knew she had to speak not as a politician, but as a daughter of Burma. Her first public speech was at the famous Shwedagon Pagoda in Yangon. Over 500,000 people came to hear her speak. She stood in front of the crowd with grace and calmness. Her voice was soft but powerful. She didn't shout or use angry words. Instead, she spoke about peace, democracy, and nonviolence. She told the people that change could come through patience and truth. Her words touched hearts. People who had felt hopeless now believed that a better future was possible. From that day on, Suu Kyi became more than a speaker. She became a symbol of hope. Soon after, Suu Kyi helped form a new political party called the National League for Democracy, NLD. The party stood for fairness, free elections, and freedom of speech. People across the country supported her with love and excitement. But the military leaders were afraid. They saw how quickly she was winning the hearts of the people. They didn't want to lose power, so in 1989, they placed her under house arrest. She was not allowed to leave her home, meet her supporters, or speak to the public. Her phone and mail were cut off. She was isolated, but not defeated. Suu Kyi spent many years alone in her house. She could not see her husband and children, who were living in the UK. When her husband became seriously ill with cancer, she was given a painful choice. Leave Myanmar to see him one last time, or stay and risk never returning. She chose to stay. She said her people needed her more. It was one of the greatest personal sacrifices she made. Yet even in silence, her message reached the world. In 1991, while still under house arrest, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. She could not attend the ceremony, so her son accepted it for her. In her message, she said the prize belonged to the people of Myanmar. Her courage inspired millions. Around the world, she was now known as the Lady of Peace, a woman who fought with love, not hate. Aung San Suu Kyi spent nearly 15 years of her life under house arrest. Even though she was kept away from the public, she never gave up. Her silence became louder than words. Her courage gave hope to the people of Myanmar. They saw her as a peaceful fighter, someone who was not afraid to stand alone. During this time, people around the world were watching. International leaders, human rights groups, and ordinary people all supported her. Even though the military tried to hide her away, her name became known in every corner of the world. In 2010, the military government finally released her from house arrest. The moment she stepped outside her home, thousands of people cheered and cried. It was like a light had returned to their lives. Suu Kyi smiled and waved, standing with the same calmness and strength she had always shown. She did not speak with anger. She still believed in peace, forgiveness, and building a better future. Her release gave people new hope. They began to believe that real change might finally come to their country. In 2015, that hope turned into history. Her political party, the National League for Democracy, NLD, won a major victory in the general elections. The people voted for her with love and trust. Because of a law created by the military, Suu Kyi was not allowed to become president, but a new position was created for her, state councilor, which gave her the power to lead the government. It was a proud moment not just for her, but for all the people who had waited so long for freedom. After years of sacrifice, Suu Kyi had finally become the leader of her country. As the new government took office, there was a feeling of hope in the air. People believed that Myanmar was entering a new era of peace and democracy. Suu Kyi promised to bring unity, end poverty, and protect the rights of everyone. She spoke calmly and kindly, just as she had before. She wanted to rebuild a nation that had been broken for so long. Her journey showed the world that patience, peace, and perseverance can lead to real change. For many people, she was not just a leader, she was the mother of a new Myanmar. After years of house arrest and struggle, Aung San Suu Kyi finally became the leader of Myanmar. But leadership was not as simple as people had hoped. Running a country is much harder than inspiring a movement. Now, she was not just a symbol, she had to make real decisions, solve real problems, and manage a broken system. The world expected great things from her, but the challenges were deeper than anyone imagined. One of the biggest difficulties she faced was working alongside the military. Even though she had been elected by the people, the military still had strong control over the government. They held key positions in power and had written laws to protect themselves. Suu Kyi had to walk a very fine line. If she pushed too hard, the military might take back control. But if she stayed quiet, people would feel betrayed. She was stuck between the dreams of democracy and the reality of politics. At the same time, many communities in Myanmar were still divided. Different ethnic groups had long histories of conflict and mistrust. Some people expected Suu Kyi to unite the nation, bring justice, and create peace across the country. But peace was slow. Change was slow. Many promises took longer than expected. Some people became frustrated while others remained patient, believing she was doing her best. Outside Myanmar, her image also began to change. In the past, the world had praised her as a peaceful hero. She had even won the Nobel Peace Prize. But now, people started to question her silence during national crises. Her name was no longer spoken with only praise. Some admired her strength. Others criticized her choices. She had become not just a freedom fighter, but a political leader, and leadership came with difficult decisions, and sometimes with mistakes. When Aung San Suu Kyi finally became the elected leader of Myanmar, people believed a new, better chapter was beginning. She was the symbol of peace, the voice of freedom, but very soon her leadership was tested in a way that changed her image around the world. In 2017, a tragic and terrible event shook Myanmar. A minority group called the Rohingya Muslims, who had lived in Myanmar for generations, were attacked. The army said they were fighting terrorists, but what the world saw was far worse. Entire villages were burned. Families ran for their lives. Children were separated from their parents. Over 700,000 Rohingya people escaped to Bangladesh, leaving everything behind. The United Nations called it a humanitarian crisis and even a possible genocide. The world looked at Aung San Suu Kyi, hoping she would speak out. They believed she would stop the violence, just as she had once stood up to the military for democracy. But this time, her silence was loud. She did not criticize the army. In fact, she defended them. She said the situation was complicated, and many felt her words were cold and disappointing. The woman once celebrated as a Nobel Peace Prize winner now faced global criticism. Her awards were returned. Her name was removed from international honors. She was no longer seen as just a peaceful hero. Her image had changed. Many people asked, Why didn't she speak for the Rohingya like she once spoke for democracy? Some said she had no choice, that the military still held too much power. Others believed she had betrayed her values. Inside Myanmar, things were different. Some people still respected her. They believed she was protecting the country from falling apart. They thought she stayed silent to keep the peace. But for many around the world, this moment was heartbreaking. It became one of the darkest parts of her journey, and it reminded us that leadership is not always simple, and heroes, too, are human. Just when it seemed like Aung San Suu Kyi had reached the peak of her political journey, something shocking happened. In February 2021, Myanmar's military took control of the country again. This time, it was not slow or silent. It was a full military coup, just hours before a new government was about to begin. Soldiers arrested Aung San Suu Kyi and many of her party leaders early in the morning. People all over the country woke up to find their internet blocked, phones not working, and tanks in the streets. Once again, Myanmar's democracy was broken, and once again Aung San Suu Kyi was under arrest just like before. But this time things were different. She was no longer the young lady with flowers in her hair. She was now in her 70s, older, quieter, and surrounded by a very different political world. The military accused her of many crimes: illegal communication, election fraud, and even corruption. One by one, the courts gave her long prison sentences. In total, she was sentenced to more than 30 years in jail. The people of Myanmar were angry. They went out on the streets in protest. Young men and women, teachers, students, even doctors, they all stood up against the military, just like she had done years ago. This new generation carried her message of courage, even if her voice was no longer heard in public. The world watched again. Many leaders called for her release, but the military showed no signs of letting go. Aung San Suu Kyi disappeared from the public eye. No new speeches, no interviews, only silence behind prison walls. Still, for many people, she remained a symbol of their long fight for freedom. Her story was repeating, full of hope and heartbreak. And yet it felt like the final pages were still unwritten. Aung San Suu Kyi's story is not just about one woman. It is about a country, a people, and a long fight between power and freedom. Her name became a symbol of peace, but her legacy, what she leaves behind, is full of both light and darkness. This makes her story not only powerful, but also very human. For many years, the world saw her as a hero, a woman with a calm voice, strong spirit, and unshakable beliefs. She gave up everything, her husband, her children, and her personal life, all for her people. She stayed under house arrest for 15 long years, while the world outside continued to move. And yet, she never gave up. This deep sacrifice made her an icon not just in Myanmar, but across the world. People believed she was the perfect example of peaceful resistance. When she was finally released and allowed to lead, the world celebrated. She had become a living proof that peaceful change is possible, even in the darkest places. Young girls in villages, women in politics, and students everywhere looked up to her. For them, she was the lady who showed that one voice can stand up to an army and win. But her time in power brought a different side of her story. When the Rohingya crisis began and thousands of people were forced to flee their homes, the world waited for Aung San Suu Kyi to speak out to protect the innocent. But she didn't. Her silence shocked many of her supporters. Some began to question her. Others felt disappointed or betrayed. They wondered, how could the Lady of Peace stay silent in the face of so much pain? Because of this, her image began to change. She was no longer just a hero, she was also a human leader, facing hard decisions and criticism. Some of her awards were taken back. People debated her actions and her past. But this is what makes her story important. It shows us that real people are not perfect. Even the bravest leaders can make mistakes, and history is never simple. Even now, while she is once again under arrest, her story continues to live in the hearts of many. For some, she is still the brave mother of Myanmar. For others, she is a leader who did not do enough. But no one can deny that she changed her country and she changed the world. Most of all, she reminds us of a powerful truth. One voice, even a quiet one, can shake the walls of power. One person, even alone, can carry the hope of millions. And even when mistakes are made, the courage to stand for what is right still matters. Aung San Suu Kyi's life is not just a history lesson, it's a mirror for all of us. Her story teaches us that real courage does not always shout. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, and full of pain. She showed the world that peaceful resistance is powerful. Those words, when used with honesty and strength, can be louder than guns. And that true leadership often means sacrifice. But her story also teaches us something else. Leaders are not perfect. They are human. They make hard choices, and sometimes they fail. This is why we must always think deeply, ask questions, and learn from every side of history, not just the good parts. So whether you admire her, or question her, or feel both, one thing is clear. Aung San Suu Kyi changed the world with her strength, her silence, and her story. And that story still matters today. Thank you for watching this video on English stories. If you enjoyed learning English through this true story, please give it a like and share it with someone who loves learning too. Let me know in the comments. What part of Aung San Suu Kyi's story inspired you the most? Do you think one person can truly change the world? Remember, every video on this channel helps you practice real English, grow your vocabulary, and understand powerful life stories from around the world. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. See you in the next video. And until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in peace.